Hello, this is a walkthrough of the end-to-end procurement process. To begin, I'm logged in as a department requester. It is my role to enter the purchase request and identify any additional needed approvers before the request routes to the transactor. In this case, from the Procure to Pay tab, I'll select Purchase Requisitions. This example is going to be using a request form to purchase a single item, including a freight line. First, I'll select the appropriate form. Enter the item description, category name, quantity, price, supplier, supplier site, and the supplier item number. The attachment section can be used to share the link of the specific item being requested. Once the item itself has been added to the cart, then I'll add the freight line as appropriate. One unique thing to remember about freight is that the freight amount goes in the quantity field and the price should always be 1. The supplier and supplier site will be the same as the item being purchased. Once both are in the cart, then I'll click the cart and select Review. Information in the description field is important because this is what can be used as keywords in the search parameters. The transactor will determine if this is a P-card purchase, so as the requester, I'll leave that field blank. It is important that any fields with asterisks are completed. Eligible for reduced tax and owning department, for example. If you know your department designated receiver, feel free to enter them in the receiver field. If needed, use the magnifying glass to pull up additional search parameters. The transactor will put themselves in for the suggested buyer. A charge account is required, but the specific charge account and deliver to location are entered by the transactor. If needed, you can add a note in the attachment section to the transactor with this information. Confirm that both lines have matching information as appropriate. To add an additional person, such as a PI, into the review process before the request routes to the transactor, click Manage Approvals. Select the first person in the list and then click the plus icon. From there, search for and enter the person and change the position to Start of Stage and then click OK. When everything is in order, click Back to return to the requisition. To save it for later, click the drop-down next to Save and select Save and Close. If everything is set on the requisition, click Save and then Submit. The requisitional route is selected to the person added to the approval routing. This functionality is commonly used when a PI would like to approve purchases before they are submitted to the transactor. For this example, I'm going to log in as that additional person and approve the transaction. Once approved, the requisition will route to the transactor, who should then open the requisition to confirm all the purchasing details, such as receiver, suggested buyer, the POTAF or COA, delivery location, etc. As the transactor, before editing the requisition, scroll through and review the information that was entered. The project or COA, deliver to location, receiver, etc. for each line. You as the transactor are the suggested buyer if the requisition is for under $10,000 and not for a restricted item that should go to central procurement. Take caution if you have any defaults, such as COA or deliver to location. When you edit the requisition, any defaults you have will set to override the values that exist on this requisition. To make changes, scroll to the bottom and click Edit Requisition. A warning will appear confirming the transactor wants to make changes. Once Yes is selected, even if no changes are made, the requisition must be submitted rather than just saved to continue the approval process. The transactor will confirm the receiver is the department designated receiver, set themselves as the suggested buyer for orders under $10,000 for unrestricted items, and confirm the deliver to location and the charge account or project. I can see all fields and descriptions by clicking the blue line icon. This requisition has 2 lines, so I'll select the second line and be sure to update the details for this row as well. After clicking Save and Submit, the transaction will head to the department level approver. The approver can review the rows and COA fields after opening the request for approval, or the approver can open up the page further to see additional details and information. Once the requisition has been approved by all of the appropriate approvers, it returns to the transactor to be processed. The transactor navigates to the approved requisition and then adds all the appropriate lines to the PO to create it. Once the PO is created, if there is a freight line that is under $500, the freight tolerance should be completed. If the freight is over $500, a freight receipt should be attached when available, and the freight line should be handled by AP. This is also the step in the process where if a line doesn't have text, that could also be updated. Once all these things are done, then the PO can be communicated to the supplier. If this were a punch-out supplier, then a checkbox would appear and the decision to communicate it, if it was not a P-card purchase, or not communicate it, if it was a P-card record, could be indicated. Once the item is received, the receiver will log into the system and navigate to receive the row. To add an additional attachment, select View, Column, and then Add the Attachments column. Keep in mind that all attachments should be added in the Miscellaneous category. Once received, an invoice will be created, and matching rules will apply. If there isn't an invoice hold, such as system or AP communication, then the supplier will be paid for the item. After the supplier is paid, it's possible to go into the system to see the invoice, payment status, and check number. This concludes the end-to-end procurement process for this specific purchase.